Hello and welcome to this episode of Ritter's Rant. Today we'll be talking about hope and justice, but we're going to start by focusing on a grave injustice that has been done to American military veterans and civilian populations throughout the Middle East and in Europe. And what I'm speaking about are people in uniform, civilians who have been exposed to the toxic effects of depleted uranium. This is an issue of some not a little bit controversy here in the United States, because the Veterans Administration, which is responsible for caring for the health of our military veterans, has refused to acknowledge a direct linkage between depleted uranium exposure and any illnesses such as cancer that could possibly be linked to this. And it also that refusal shields the United States from any culpability or having to take responsibility for the serious harm we've done to civilians who live in Iraq, Afghanistan, in Kosovo, and elsewhere. This is probably every year. 3,200 American veterans get diagnosed with bladder cancer. Other thousands get diagnosed with other forms of cancer. In many cases, these cancers, from a just causal analysis, are linked to exposures that these Americans had to toxic substances. I mean, if you're a Vietnam era veteran, we're talking about Agent Orange. But if you're talking about a Cold War era veteran, somebody who fought, in Kosovo or was part of the occupation force of Kosovo, people who fought in Iraq in the 1990s and in 2000 in Afghanistan, it's depleted uranium that you were exposed to. And this is bad news. This is bad juju. And they're not getting the health care they need. They're not getting, the compensation that they deserve. They put on the uniform to serve their country. And in doing so, they were exposed in deliberate fashion to a substance, depleted uranium, that is now taking their lives that weren't taken by an enemy, but are be taken by the very weaponry that they employed to protect themselves from this enemy. And, having the U.S. government stick their collective heads in the sand is a disgrace. It's a dishonor to these veterans. Now, people might be saying, well, Scott, how do you know? I mean, this is the U.S. government, the Veterans Administration, the Health and Human Services, the Center for Disease Control. What do you know that they don't? Here I got the one up on them. You see, in Serbia, there's a professor, Dr. Sirdan Aleksic, and he has for the past several years been waging a campaign to bring justice to the people of Serbia who were exposed to the effects of depleted uranium. And he has worked to develop not just a legal case, but more importantly here, a medical case. You see, there have been advances in nanotechnology now that have a test that will prove with 100% certainty that a cancer that you may have, what the origin is, if it can be linked to uranium, a depleted uranium exposure. And this has survived successful lawsuits in Italy, where this technology was used to come to the assistance of Italian soldiers who, suffered cancer that has now been proven to be linked to their exposure to depleted uranium while they were operating in Kosovo. And now he has won a lawsuit in Serbia on behalf of a Serbian civilian who contracted cancer, and now using the same nanotechnology, they've linked it to depleted uranium that was fired by the United States and NATO forces. So this is no longer a question. It's beyond doubt. You can't say, oh, we don't know. We now know. If somebody has cancer and you run this test, this will be able with absolute certainty to determine whether the origin of this cancer can be linked to depleted uranium exposure. This has to be brought to the attention of RFK Jr., who heads up the Department of Health and Human Services, the man who's responsible for making America healthy again. Doug Collins, the Secretary of the Veterans Administration, who has said he's here to look after the health of our veterans. And yet today, thousands, tens of thousands of American veterans suffer from cancer and other health effects because of the exposure to depleted uranium. If we truly believe in making America healthy again and taking care of our veterans, then we need to bring this new nanotechnology test to American shores, get it approved so that it can be used to, assess the true state of affairs when it comes to American veterans, cancer, and depleted uranium exposure. But there's even a bigger problem. A simple Google search will show you the impact that depleted uranium's had on the civilian population of Iraq. The number of deformed babies that are born into this world because of depleted uranium exposure, the number of deaths, cancer to the civilians of Basra, Fallujah, elsewhere. Same thing in Afghanistan, and the civilians of Europe. Now, this is a big deal because if we acknowledge this, and it has to be acknowledged, the science is absolute, that there's a linkage, then we bear a responsibility, not only of taking care of those who have suffered, but of remediating the contaminated soil. When we use depleted uranium, it's not just about, the immediate impact on the ground. These munitions, when they explode, they're often high explosive shells with depleted uranium penetrators. It creates a dust that can spread up to 40 kilometers away from the point of impact. And this dust goes into the soil. And then that soil gets breathed in or absorbed by, unsuspecting people. We have to find a way to clean this up. It's our responsibility as Americans. We're the ones who, made these weapons. And frankly speaking, for the past several decades, we've known that there's an issue with depleted uranium, but we refuse to acknowledge it because we just find depleted uranium too damn convenient. We use it as armor plating on our M1 tanks. We use it as tank penetrating shells in our 25 millimeter, 20 millimeter, 120 millimeter cannon shells. And we have to stop. We have to stop. It's pure poison. We're poisoning the world. We're poisoning our veterans. And so hope. We now have hope for those people who have suffered the consequences of depleted uranium exposure. Hope that the true cause of their suffering has been identified and now they can get the care and the compensation that they deserve, that they earned by serving our country. Hope for the civilian populations around the world who were stuck in the middle of combat operations where we used depleted uranium against a hostile force, contaminating the soil in their area and condemning generations of innocents to die, to suffer because of this exposure. And justice. Justice can only happen when those who have suffered have been dealt with justly, given compensation, given the medical care they need, and have their environment cleaned up so that the next generation doesn't suffer the way they did. Hope and justice. Sirdan Alexic deserves all the credit in the world, and I'm going to be taking his work and writing an open letter to both RFK Jr. and Doug Collins to say you must embrace this technology. And I would encourage anybody watching this to follow up with further communication. Hope and justice. We have to do the right thing. We have to take care of our veterans, and we have to take care of the innocent civilians who have paid a heavy price because of the wars we waged. Thanks for listening to my rant. Next time a thought crosses my mind, I'll be sure to let you know.